Hello, dear students. My name is Sai Sarath, and I welcome you back to the English Grammar Mastery course. Have you ever heard about the game Telephone? It's a fun game where one person whispers a message to another and the message is passed along until it reaches the last person. Often, the message gets distorted along the way. This is similar to how direct and indirect speech work in English grammar. It's all about how we share information, stories, or conversations with others. In this lesson, we will master the art of conveying messages effectively. Before we start, just remember that if you have any questions at all, you can ask me those in the Q&A section or email me, and I will get back to you personally as soon as possible. So without any delay, let us begin our lesson. In English, we have two ways to express what someone said: direct speech and indirect speech. Direct speech is when we quote the exact words someone spoke, while indirect speech, also known as reported speech, is when we convey the essence of what was said without quoting the exact words. Understanding the differences and knowing how to use both types of speech effectively will greatly improve your communication skills. Let us first understand each of these individually, starting with the direct speech. Direct speech, also known as quoted speech, is a way to convey the exact words spoken or written by someone. When using direct speech, we put the speaker's words in quotation marks to indicate that we are quoting their exact words. This allows the listener or reader to experience the speaker's words as if they were present during the conversation. It is useful when we want to emphasize the speaker's emotions, tone, or specific word choices, making the message more vivid and impactful. Let us see one example. Nishant said, "I am going to store to buy some groceries." In this sentence, we can see that Nishant's exact words are enclosed in quotation marks, indicating that we are quoting him directly. This way, the listener or reader can understand precisely what Nishant said without any alteration or interpretation. Using correct punctuation and formatting is essential when writing the direct speech sentence to ensure clarity and readability. Here are some key punctuation and formatting rules that you have to keep in mind. First, use quotation marks to enclose the spoken words. Also, place commas or colons before the quotation marks depending on the context. Start the quoted speech with a capital letter, even if it appears in the middle of a sentence. Use appropriate punctuation within the quotation marks to indicate questions, exclamations, or full stops. Let us look at some more examples. He asked, "Where are you going?" In this sentence, the spoken words "Where are you going?" is enclosed in quotation marks and introduced by the reporting verb asked. A comma is used to separate the reporting verb from the direct speech, and the direct speech starts with a capital letter. The question mark inside the quotation marks indicate that the direct speech is a question. Let us see another example. She exclaimed, "I can't believe it's already Friday." In this sentence, the spoken words "I can't believe it's already Friday" is enclosed in quotation marks and introduced by the reporting verb exclaimed. A comma is used to separate the reporting verb from the direct speech, and the direct speech starts with a capital letter. The exclamation mark inside the quotation mark indicates that the direct speech is an exclamation. Now let us learn about the indirect speech. Indirect speech, also known as reported speech, is a way of conveying what someone said without quoting their exact words. Instead, the speaker's words are paraphrased or summarized, and the tense of the verbs may change to reflect the passage of time. Indirect speech is used when the focus is on the content or message of the original statement rather than the exact wordings. For example, consider the following direct speech. He said, I am going to the store. In indirect speech, this statement would be reported as he said that he was going to the store. Notice that the exact words of the speaker are not quoted and the verb tense has changed from present tense am to the past tense was to show that the action happened in the past. Additionally, the use of the conjunction that is common in indirect speech, though it can sometimes be omitted. Indirect speech is used to convey the gist of what someone said without using their exact words. This can be particularly helpful when reporting the main points of a conversation or summarizing a lengthy statement. Okay, so before we learn how to convert direct speech to indirect speech and indirect speech to direct speech, first we have to remember three important concepts. First one is what the subject and object in the sentence are. Second is the first, second, and the third persons. And third is the tenses. We have already discussed all these topics in our previous videos, but we will quickly revise them here. So, what is the subject and the object in a sentence? We will understand it using an example. In the sentence, Ram is eating a mango. Ram is the person who is doing the action eating, and mango is receiving the action as it is being eaten. The person, place, animal, or thing that is doing the action is the subject of the sentence, and the person, place, animal, thing who is receiving the action is the object of the sentence. Now let us understand what first, second, and third persons are. Let us say that there are three persons, Vijay, Sai, and Govind. Govind and Sai are in the room, and Govind is telling something to Sai about Vijay, who is present somewhere else. In this case, Govind is the first person since he is the person speaking. Sai is the second person as he is the person that Govind is speaking to. And Vijay is the third person as he is the person spoken about. The next important concept that you have to remember is the tenses. There are three main tenses: past tense, present tense, and future tense. Each of these has four subparts, so that makes a total of 12 tenses in grammar. You have to understand and remember these tenses properly because we will be using the tenses in this lesson. Now let us learn the steps to convert direct speech into indirect speech. There are a total of 6 steps that you have to follow to convert direct speech into indirect speech. The first step is to identify the different parts and elements of the sentence. We have to identify 5 different elements: subject, object, reporting verb, first, second, and third person in the reported speech, and the tense of the reported speech. Step 2 is to change the reporting verb. We have to change the reporting verb in the direct speech to a verb that is appropriate for the context of the indirect speech. For example, said may become told, asked, requested, ordered, or suggested, depending on the context of the sentence. You have to understand the context and choose the reporting verb appropriately. Step 3 is to replace the inverted commas with that. We will remove the inverted comma and the commas in the sentence and join the reported speech with that. Step 4 is the change of pronoun. The pronouns that we identified in the first step in the reported speech will be changed according to this table. The first person pronoun will be decided as per the subject. Second person pronoun will be decided as per the object, and third person pronoun will not change. You can remember this with the acronym SUN, where S is subject, O is object, and N is no change. Step number 5 is the change of tense. The tense of the original statement often changes when reported in indirect speech. This change reflects the fact that the reporting takes place at a later time than the original statement. Here are some common tense changes that occur. So these are the changes in tenses that will occur. Now let us look at the final step. Step number 6. If necessary, change the time and place expression to maintain the accuracy. If there are any words indicating time and place, it needs to be changed when converting to indirect speech. Here is a table for some commonly used time and place expressions along with the conversions. Please go through this and try to remember them. Okay, now let us understand these steps by taking an example. Look at this direct speech sentence. She said, I am going to the store today. Now let us convert this direct speech sentence into indirect speech. Step 1 is to identify the different elements of the sentence. Subject is she. There is no object in this sentence. Reporting verb is said, and the person in reported speech is first person. In this case, I. Tense of the reported speech is present continuous as am going is used. Step number 2 is change of reporting verb. In this case, we will keep the reporting verb said as it is. Step number 3 is to replace the inverted commas with that. So remove the inverted commas and the comma in the sentence and join the reported speech with that. Step number 4 is change of pronouns. Step number 5 is change of tense. Present continuous tense in the reported speech, am going, will change to past continuous tense. Step number 6 is change of time and place expressions. The time expression today will change to that day to maintain accuracy. So the direct speech, she said, I am going to the store today, is transformed into indirect speech. She said that she was going to the store that day. By following the steps of converting direct speech to indirect speech, we can accurately convey the meaning and tone of the speaker without using the exact word they spoke. Now let us learn to convert indirect speech into direct speech. Here is a step-by-step process for converting indirect speech to direct speech. Step 1 is to identify the reporting verb and add quotation marks in the sentence. Step number 2 is to change the tense of the reported speech back to the original tense. Step number 3 is to adjust the pronouns to match the original speaker's perspective. Step number 4 is to remove the reporting verb or replace it with a more direct speech appropriate verb. Step number 5, if necessary, change the time and place expressions back to their original forms. And step number 6 is to remove any conjunctions that connected the reporting verb to the reported speech. Let us understand this process by taking one example. The sentence, she said that she was going to the store that day. This is an indirect speech sentence. Now let us try to convert this into direct speech using the above steps. Step 1 is to identify the reporting verb and add quotation marks. Here, the reporting verb is said and the reported speech is she was going to the store that day. So we will place quotation marks on this. That means she was going to store that day is enclosed in quotation marks to indicate it as direct speech. Step 2 is the change of tense of reported speech back to the original tense. So was going, which is in past continuous, changes back to am going, which is in present continuous. Step 3 Adjust the pronouns to match the original speaker's perspective. So she changes to I. Step 4 is to remove the reporting verb or replace it with a more direct speech appropriate verb. Said will remain as said. Step 5, if necessary, change the time and place expressions back to their original forms. So that day will become today. Last step, step 6, is to remove any conjunctions that connected the reporting verb to the reported speech. So that is removed since the reported speech is now a direct quote. So the indirect speech, she said that she was going to the store that day, is transformed into the direct speech, she said, comma, I am going to the store today. By following the steps of converting indirect speech to direct speech, we can accurately convey the exact words spoken by the speaker and add authenticity and realism to the dialogue. Okay, now that we have learned about the conversions, let us learn about the common mistakes that people make while using direct and indirect speeches. People generally make four kinds of mistake. First, they use incorrect tense changes. Failing to change the tense of the reported speech when converting from direct to indirect speech is the first mistake that people make. Second mistake is the pronoun confusion. Not adjusting pronouns to match the new perspective when converting between direct and indirect speech is the second major mistake that people make. Third mistake is inaccurate reporting verbs. Using inappropriate or incorrect reporting verbs when introducing the reported speech is also another mistake that people usually make. Last mistake is the punctuation and formatting errors. Not using quotation marks correctly or failing to properly format the direct speech is the last kind of mistake that people make. To avoid these kind of mistakes, please go through all these topics properly, remember the rules, and keep practicing until you are confident in using sentences in both direct and indirect speeches. The more you practice, the more confident and accurate you will become. Keeping that in mind, I have prepared some additional exercises for you to practice converting sentences between direct and indirect speech. I have given 3 sentences for conversion between direct to indirect speech and 3 sentences from indirect to direct speech. Pause the video here and try to convert these sentences. You can get the answers in the PDF material provided below this lesson. So that brings an end to the topic direct and indirect speech. After watching this lesson, you can go through the material given below and test your understanding through a quiz given there. I hope that this lesson was helpful to you. Thank you and happy learning.